Okay, I've got all my pattern pieces cut out, and there's a couple things I need to mention before I go any further. Number one, right here on the collar, it's just this tiny little piece, and it barely makes a little bit of a loop around her neck. If you like it, cut your pattern out exactly the way it is, but I'm going to add 1/4 of an inch, and I only cut one of these because they're exactly the same, so I'll just make myself 2 of these. But I added 1/4 of an inch on the bottom of that pattern piece. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Okay, here. On Addy's winter collar, this is the full size one, so I just added 1/4 of an inch underneath here because I want it to stand up just a little bit higher on her neck instead of being so narrow. But it's up to you. It's a personal preference thing, and I just want it a little bit higher than what it is. Another thing I need to mention is the sleeve. This sleeve actually it's not exactly even. I didn't realize that when I told you don't worry about the darts. There's a right sleeve and a left sleeve, and the reason I can tell that is when you fold it in half, it's not exactly even on the top. If it was even on the top, it wouldn't matter that you didn't cut out the darts. But because there is a right and a left, the big size in the back, it always goes to the back. So right down you have a right and a left. So if you fold it in half and there's paper still on, they don't match, and the paper, the big size, the higher size, is always going to be the back of your sleeve. And the reason for that is it gives you more room to move your arm, but a doll wouldn't matter. Well, it would. But yeah, so you're going to have a right and a left sleeve. So wherever you see the double darts on a sleeve, that's usually the back of the sleeve. So you might want to cut these darts out so you know that the 2 darts on the sleeve, that means that's the back of the sleeve. So I just wrote right and left on mine. Okay, as far as getting the pattern ready to cut out, I'm going to go with a very light iron on this fleece because I don't want any color transfer, and I want as little of the fleece to come off on this freezer paper. So I'm halfway. So it doesn't really matter where you lay out your pattern as far as design. I'm going to follow the design. Like, here's my 2 front pieces. I want to make sure I have some really cute wolf's faces on the front of my jacket. So this one's really cute right here. See this one right here? So I'm actually going to press on the right side of the fleece because the outside of my jacket's going to be the wrong side of the fleece. So try not to cut in the salvages too, because see how the fleece is gone here? So I'm going to keep it on for now so I know exactly where my straight of grain is. But don't cut any of your pattern in this, so you're losing already like 1.5 inches of your fleece fabric because you just don't want that in your finished product. So my first picture is going to be this face. I want this on right in the front, so I'm going to follow my grain, and I'm going to, you don't have to be perfect. So just look and see, if there was no pattern, you wouldn't be doing this at all. But because there is a pattern, I want that dog's face. And all you want to do is just heat it so it sticks. Nothing. You don't want it. So it's not hot. Maybe I'll go another click or 2. It's just not sticking. So just get it so it sticks. Okay. So that's my first picture. I'm not going to worry about the back because you're really not going to see much of the back of the jacket because the doll will probably always be facing towards you. So here's the other front. So I'm going to try and get a different dog. Those are all the same dogs. So I guess I'll go with let's see what the other side looks like. Okay, we'll go with the other side on this one. I like this one. I'm going to put it here. I'm probably wasting fabric, but you know what? I bought this specifically for this outfit anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I probably won't be using this fur for anything else anyway, or this fleece for anything else. Okay, so those are my two front pieces. So now I really don't worry about the placement on the rest of them. So here comes the sleeves. Left sleeve. Okay. We've got two back pieces. Lined up. Another back piece. Because there is a pattern to these dog faces, you've got to make sure that all your patterns are up and down. You don't want to put your dogs upside down. Okay, so there's that. And then my two side pieces. This is the back side pieces. Okay, let me see if I can fit this somewhere else, because I was just thinking I may not have enough for a beret, so I may have to rethink this piece. Yeah, I am, because my beret is going to be, I'm going to need enough for the beret. Where are my beret pieces? Here's one piece of my beret, and the next circle is an inch bigger than that one, so I'll have that, and this one, boop, boop. Maybe I will not be able to get a beret out of this. Okay, well, let me work on this and I'll get back to you. Okay, I went back in and I relaid out my pattern. I didn't want to lose all my fabric because I needed room for my beret. So even though I didn't get the pictures I wanted on the fabric, at least I know I'll have enough fabric to get all my pieces cut out. So here's your layout. I'm going to cut all these pieces out, and then we'll actually start to assemble the doll jacket. You need to cut two of these, so I'm going to cut one and I'll just cut the other one, and I'll get these all cut out and we'll get started on actually sewing them together. Okay, so this is where we're at. I've got all my pieces cut out. I've got two collar pieces. I've got my two sleeves, a right sleeve and a left sleeve. I've got my two front pieces. I've got my two back piece sides and my two back pieces, and that's your whole jacket right there. And I have this much fabric left over. I'll have enough for a beret, and I'll have enough for a pair of boots. So I'm happy with that. So that was 1/3 of a yard. So I'm keeping my bigger scraps in case I need to do some piecing. So this is it. And I also had a nap in my fabric, so when you have a nap, you got to make sure that all of your pictures are going to be on the right, you can't turn your pieces upside down. You've got to cut your pieces out so that all your animals or your figurines are all in the same direction. So you'll even save more fabric if you don't have a nap or a pattern to have to work with. Okay, so I'm going to get my sewing machine out, and then we'll actually start sewing this together. Okay, we're going to get started on the jacket. I tested out a couple of different thread colors to see which one I liked the best. I did a black, and I thought that was just a little too stark against this fabric, so then I went with a light gray. And since we're going to have buttonholes, I thought the light gray was probably the better choice. So that's what I'm going to sew with, light gray. I'm using a dual duty and a regular needle. I chose dual duty instead of my 39-cent thread because I have to make buttonholes in this jacket. You don't have to. You can use fleece or snaps or whatever, but I'm going to use buttonholes, so I want a stronger thread than what I normally sew these clothes with. So I'm using dual duty. Okay, so we're just going to follow along the pattern. So number one step is to sew your two back pieces together. So that's where we're at, step one. So I'm going to take my two pieces apart. Okay, so I've decided to make the side with all of the loops on it my back side. So this is going to be my inside. So this is my right side. So I'm going to put right sides together, and I'm going to sew a seam right down the center. Okay, so you can pin it if you feel better about pinning it, or just hold it while you're pinning it. This fleece is easy to work with. It gives you a really nice, real nice seam. And I haven't had any trouble sewing with this fleece. Okay, so those are two right sides together. And I'm going to put a seam in. I'm using a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Oops, got an error. Okay, what's going on? Okay, let's try it again. Oh, I'm getting an error message. Okay, I'm going to figure out what's wrong with my machine, and I'll get back to you.